Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
Brewers, it's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think, Jamil and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Greetings, Cretans.
It's the main Cretan himself, John
Indeed.
Palmer.
How y'all doing today?
Good. Also got my good friend Matt Thomas here in the studio with us, and
very good.
my not so dear friend Scott Moskowitz.
Just a regular friend?
Regular
I'll
friend.
take that.
Yeah. I consider you an acquaintance. Yes.
Oh, what happened?
I mean, a friend.
We keep taking a step down. I know you. You're a guy I've met before.
I've seen you before, yeah. Your name is? Yes.
You're that redhead.
Yeah, the redheaded fella. Yeah. Palmer and I had great times out in CBC land in Portland.
Oh, we sure did, yeah.
How was that? I've heard great
three
things.
words. Frank's Noodle House.
Yeah, I'll give you 3 words. Frank's Noodle House.
Is it the extracurricular mealtime?
Oh, yeah. No, we had a lot of great experiences out there. And one was, there's this place, it's like a house that's kind of on the outskirts of Portland, that they do hand-pulled noodles. You know, the traditional Chinese hand-pulled noodles, and they were really good. Big, thick noodles, but they were flawlessly cooked. You know, just al dente enough, and they pull your noodle right before they cook it.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Gotta love those Asians.
How many meals did you eat there during the course of the conference? In what was
Just
it? 4?
one.
Oh, you only ate there
just
once?
one.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, it was at the end. You know, we did not discover it until then.
Yeah, we also had a good time at Jake's Crawfish, which is a famous Portland seafood restaurant with some friends.
But it was not crawfish season.
True.
Well, I'll tell you what. If we went to Jake's Crawfish, and you know what? That was a pricey meal, but
Our good friends.
Sponsoring us even in our fine meals, our good friend John Blickman. He picked up the tab for everybody.
Good guy.
And even included in Chris Chambers and who was the other guy with Chris? So horrible with names. Chris Chambers from Dunbar Brewing, and the guy with him was also his friend.
Jim?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It might have been Ray.
Jim Ray. Jim Ray was there with us.
Darn. Yeah.
And no, that was really good too. It was not crawfish season, but
The steelhead was excellent.
yes. And I had the Dungeness crab, I believe, which was also quite excellent. And then Chris took us down to some place called the Pope House, where they have all sorts of whiskeys and bourbons and such.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Did your brother own it?
No. We ran across. I ran across rats running down the street one night, and
Giant raccoon.
a giant raccoon. No, it was pretty small. I mean, it was good size. It was average. I've seen the real big ones. I mean, as big as Scott. You know, as big as Scott come walking at me. But this one was like a normal raccoon wandering out on the street. It came out in between the houses.
Panhandling. Yeah.
It was just like, and then I just turned around and walked back in. We're like, okay.
Where was CBC this year?
Portland.
It was stateside.
Yes.
I mean, you feel like you're describing
Right.
some Mediterranean shit.
When the rats were streaming up and down the street, that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I'm like, rats. It's like I'm in New York.
How was the trade show floor?
huge and really good.
Over 600 vendors, 12,000 attendees at CPC this year. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, and what were you doing there, Jamil? Just networking and pouring a bunch of Heretic beer for people that weren't paying for it?
Oh, no. I did not send any beer at all. Talking to distributors. A lot of the distributors came in from all over the world to be there, and so I had meetings with a number of them and checking out for stuff that I need for the brewery. So, equipment, supplies like, hops or bottles or cans, all that stuff.
Did you find any equipment you didn't think you needed, but now you're convinced you need it?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think a couple of things along those lines where...
It was the oxygen meter or the CO2 meter?
I knew I need that. I was just trying to beat them up on price. There was something else. There's a few things. I'll tell you what. I went by the Lamott booth. We talked to
Ernie and
Dave, and I got a water test kit from him. And normally, I'm like, water is one of the last things you need to look at, when you're brewing. First take care of your fermentation, all that. But they have a nice kit that actually makes it pretty easy. Got all the instructions in it. It's got everything you need, so you're not hunting around trying to pick up, buy this and that, and all in the right quantities and things like that. It's like the kit I got. It's the Plus kit, good for 50 tests, and so I thought it was real handy, and brought that back for the lab at Heretic, and we're going to implement monthly water testing, so that. Cool. We know what our water is, but, water changes over, depending on what you're getting. And we want to be, one step ahead of that and know, what's happening.
Right, definitely.
Water just changes by its nature. And, is it being accelerated now? We're in the midst of a big drought here in California, and they're going to start treating different water? They're going to pull it from the ground or what?
Yeah, exactly. They'll pull more groundwater. They won't have, the surface water. They won't have, the snow melt in the rivers and things like that. So they're just going to have to take what they can get. And
the utility is the one that changes it, Scott. Where, depending on availability and cost of treatment for a particular source, they'll move it around because they've got the requirement to provide X millions of gallons of water a day. And so they're looking at their sources, their resources, where they can get that and how much treatment it takes to deliver it. So it can, especially here in California, the water is probably going to start getting harder and harder. That is, more minerals in it because it's going to come from groundwater sources, and because of the lack of surface water or mountain runoff that we have been getting in the past.
Isn't that what we all just said?
So do homebrewers need to start brewing pills? They need to start brewing pilsners then?
It would be harder to do pilsners.
Harder?
Actually.
More stouts. More stoutish, generally. What are we talking about today? We're going to talk about, we're going to do a Q&A. And this is going to be some of your pro brewer questions on running a pro brewery.
Yep.
We got a pile of those, and that's what I just decided to pull this morning.
Jay and I...
We talked to a lot of craft brewers, of course, at CBC. And got, a lot of people came up to us and told us how much they liked the show, and they're still learning from it. So we're doing our best to keep it relevant.
Right. Well, and here's the story I told my wife. Well, John and I were at... we could do all our CBC stories here. John and I were at the welcome opening reception, and it's this crowd of thousands of people stuffed in this one little Coliseum thing. And there's people coming up saying thank you, appreciate all your information. It's really helped me, become a professional brewer, a better brewer, things like that. And no offense to all you guys out there, but it's a bunch of fat white dudes. Some of them are skinnier nowadays and a little more modern. Not as fat, and it's never, very rarely is it women. This super hot woman comes up and she's doing the full on, hey, I'm a brewer and, I wanted to thank you. And so my wife the story. I'm like, best looking woman I've seen in a long time. And she happens to be a brewer. And I'm always complaining about it. It's all, it's all these fat white dudes. And she's like, you should have taken a picture. I'm like, yeah, I think that would have seemed really strange. But John, you remember who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I can't remember her name, unfortunately. But yeah,
it was so loud I couldn't hardly hear anything. But
yeah,
it was quite unusual. I'm like, great. Not that a really attractive woman can't brew great beer. It's just
doesn't happen often.
It's kind of a rarity.
Yeah,
it's a rarity.
Yeah.
For women to be head brewers at this point. Unfortunately.
Did you catch who was she brewing for?
I don't know. It was somewhere East Coast, New York or something.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What's funny is the sometimes the dog or the pet looks like the owner. In this case, the audience resembles the hosts. Is it a big surprise? It's fat white guys.
That's right. Fat white guys on this show. Fat white guys listening. That's what I'm just saying. If you're not recognizing that, you probably should be listening to a different show.
Well, send in your picture. I want to see who you are now.
Right.
And tell us who maybe send in some of your beer.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could remember.
I thought that was just totally cool.
It really was. Yeah.
Kind of mixed
a lot
up.
of international brewers were at the CBC as well.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get into questions about the Pro Brewer. And hey, I've got a Jay-Z's Medical Corner coming up.
Whoopee.
Later in the show, so you don't want to miss that. All right, we'll be back right after this.
Are you looking for a simple brewing system that's great for all grain brewing, but everything on the market seems to be full of compromises? Blickman Engineering has the answer. The Blickman Brew Easy All Grain Brewing System. The Brew Easy is a complete system with easy upgrades and a beautiful compact design, perfect for any size brewing location. At its core, the Brew Easy is built on two gorgeous Blickman Boilermaker brew kettles, a high-temperature March pump, and either a top-tier gas burner or the new Boil Coil electric heater. The Brew Easy adapter lid allows the pots to stack on top of each other, forming an efficient, strong, and compact brewing setup that comes in 5, 10, and 20-gallon batch sizes. Upgrade your Brew Easy system with full automated control by adding a Blickman Tower of Power temp controller, and make moving around easy with the Blickman Kettle Cart. The Brew Easy is modular. If you already own a Boilermaker kettle, you can build your Brew Easy by purchasing just the modules you need. The new Brew Easy all-grain brewing system. See it today at BlickmanEngineering.com and brew with Blickman quality on your new Brew Easy. The National Homebrew Conference is coming up this summer, and More Beer wants to send you. To celebrate 20 years of serving homebrewers, More Beer is giving away 2 full pass registrations to the 2015 National Homebrew Conference, June 10th through 13th. That's right, 2 full passes, full access to all the presentations, club night, and Pro Brewers Night, 2 seats to the grand banquet and awards ceremony, 2 one-year membership gift cards to the American Homebrewers Association, 4-night stay at the beautiful Town and Country Resort, round-trip airfare to and from the San Diego airport, 2 VIP passes to the Brewing Network's own anniversary party, a $250 prepaid Visa gift card for food and your other expenses, and dinner with the More Beer crew. Visit morebeer.com for all the details and to enter. You can enter once a day through April 15th, and the winner will be drawn on April 25th. If you've already purchased your registration to the event and seats to the grand banquet, those fees can be refunded. Enter today at morebeer.com. When I order a beer, I want my server to know more about it than I do. I want someone who enjoys good beer and loves helping others enjoy it too. I want someone who knows how to pour a perfect pint for every beer style. I want
a Cicerone.
The Cicerone Certification Program is creating the type of people who help you enjoy great beer. Home brewers and craft beer lovers know beer is more flavorful and complex than ever, and it takes some serious knowledge to store and serve beer right. Cicerones know beer. There are 3 levels in the Cicerone program: Certified Beer Server, Certified Cicerone, and Master Cicerone. Cicerones are truly the sommeliers of beer. The best beer locations have a certified Cicerone on staff. Relaxed and unpretentious. Cicerones are tested on storing and serving beer, beer styles, flavor and tasting, the brewing process and ingredients, and pairing food with beer. Learn more about your next beer guide at cicerone.org. Certified Cicerone, because it takes top talent to present a perfect pint.
For nearly 40 years, one organization has had your back. The American Homebrewers Association. Are you a member? Why not? Join the more than 40,000 brewers who enjoy all the American Homebrewers Association has to offer. Like Zymergy Magazine, in print and online, plus the Zymergy app. Zymergy is the leading publication for amateur brewers around the world. Supporters also get member deals at their local breweries, bars, and homebrew shops. These alone quickly pay for your membership. You'll also get great member-only resources at homebrewersassociation.org and access to AHA events like the National Homebrewers Conference and the National Homebrew Competition. The American Homebrewers Association promotes the hobby of homebrewing, protects the interests of homebrewers, and brings beer lovers together. Become a member today. It costs less than a batch of beer and gives back so much more. Visit homebrewersassociation.org.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. We get a lot of questions in. If you have questions for the show, you send them in to Brew Strong at thebrewingnetwork.com, and we get those, and we kind of sort through them. If you have show topics or questions, and actually, there's a couple of good show topics mixed in here. We're going to cover the questions, but I think Palmer is going to be your homework to work up some full shows on some of these. Well, they're good questions.
We do a lot of Q&A on the Sour Hour, Jake Goodwin and I, and, we've only been doing it for 8 months now, 7 months.
So not as good as we are.
Not even, not, and also not nearly as big of a backlog of questions, and our backlog is huge. So I can only imagine how many questions over the years are just still as of yet unanswered.
Yeah, at one point I just marked everything as
Red.
That's how I keep track. Dumped all of those, like thousands. So I think we have about 500 that are for the show.
Yeah.
And we do about 6 or 7 per show.
Right.
So we're on top of it, man.
We should finish sometime in the 2200s.
Right. No, it's great. And I try and mix in newer ones and some older ones every time. What I'll do, we try and group them into topics. So get your questions in, and we'll mix them in there.
All right, the first one here is from Dan Coelho, and he said, on a one-barrel system, how effective is a Herms coil or a Rin system in the pro setting? I've had great success using Herms on the homebrew level, but when upping the ante in volume, at what point and with what equipment do you use to effectively achieve your desired outcome from your mash? Furthermore, at this level, would you achieve good results by using the Herms coil to chill off the wort, or would you recommend jumping into a plate frame? Plate A-frame?
Plate and
heat
frame. Yeah, heat exchanger.
Yeah, okay.
In the pro setting, I first off, one barrel is still like homebrew size. Mm-hmm. So I think if you're doing pro at one barrel, you're insane. You've lost your freaking mind, because you're going to kill yourself trying to brew enough beer for even the smallest of tasting rooms. You're like, I don't know. No.
But there are a lot of guys out there killing themselves right now.
Yes.
It works, but as Jamil says, it's a killer.
But I would skip the Herms rims. I think it would probably still work at that volume, depending on the amount of flow. You just need more flow through it. So if you're going to do Herms or Rims, you'd scale everything up in size as well. I think you can't do the little narrow coil or the small little heaters. You'd need to step those up too. And if you did, it should work fine. I don't necessarily see when you get large enough, your mash just holds temp because it's just such a large volume of material that once you get it to 154 degrees, it'll sit there for an hour and not change temperature. I mean, if you drop a degree, it's kind of shocking. So, not really needed. But recirculating can be good. You boil off to clarify your wort. So, and then at a barrel, you could still use an immersion chiller, I guess, if it was big enough. But, you're probably starting to look at, a plate chiller. You can get... Here's the thing about plate chillers is the cost of the gaskets on those plate chillers are about 1/3 the cost of the whole chiller. So I have a $10,000 chiller. To replace my gaskets cost me $3,000.
How often do you have to do that?
Maybe every couple of years. But you can buy a brazed plate chiller from like Duda Diesel, that guy on eBay, and he has them in just like every imaginable size and shape. And you could get it for, a quarter the price or a fifth the price of an actual plate and frame chiller. And so when you're in those smaller sizes, I'd recommend maybe getting one of those, back flushing it and heating it to, kill anything in it. And then, every time. And then, when that thing starts getting gummed up, just throw it away and buy another one until you get up to a size where you need the bigger efficiency and all that.
Yeah, I just to add on, I think 1 barrel, even up to perhaps 3 barrel, you could scale up a Herms system to work with that. But I think you really start getting to diminishing returns in terms of the amount of energy required to heat those volumes. I think there's better economy in, burners for that large size, heating the thing directly, then of course when you get up to 5-7 barrel, moving up to, steam and boilers and so on.
Right. Yeah. If you were going to put, like electric elements in there, you need a lot of them and you need to flow a lot of liquid across it, you'd have to scale it.
Good luck, Dan, at 1 barrel.
Right. Yeah, Dan. Buy yourself save your money, buy yourself like a 3 barrel, 3.5 barrel, and start with that.
Or, figure out how not to sleep. I mean, think how productive you could be if you never, you just have an extra 10 hours, 8 hours a day. It's a lot.
Is that how much you sleep?
6 hours a day. How many hours are you pulling off every night? Both of you?
I sleep 6.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it depends. But 6 or 7, and then a lot of times I like 2. I'll go to bed, I'll wake up after a couple hours, and I start thinking about something, and I'm just like, crap, and I'll just go and start working.
Anxiety.
And all that. Yeah.
Really?
Huh?
John, do you sleep well?
Generally, but some nights it will be like 4 or 5 hours, and then I wake up at 4 a.m. like Jamil says, and my mind's going about some project I'm working on. And
once I start thinking, there's no sleeping.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You turn it into productivity though?
Yeah, I just go and I start working. I'm always behind on email and all that.
Is that why you're like semi-successful man?
Semi. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't use, minimally. Minimally is probably a better word.
Well, it's like, you have a family, but they're in community college. You have an RV, but it's from 1997. You have a brewery, but it's not that big. Right. On the one hand, you're a very successful man.
Minimally. Yeah, minimally.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dan, if you can figure out how to sleep 2 hours a night, you should be fine.
Yes.
The next one's from Mike. Kula. And he said, Dearest Jamil and John, I just want to thank you both for all the great info from your pro shows. I've been homebrewing for almost a year, and I've gotten and continue to get blowing smoke. Thank you, sir. I recently binged on the Progasm shows, and on a whim, I applied for a job with a local brew pub, looking for an assistant brewer. I took all of your advice, and through some beer god-based miracle, 2 weeks later, they hired me with no pro brewing experience, and I start training next week. So thanks for all you guys do for home and pro brewing. I owe my job to you guys. So no questions here, just a nice note.
Yeah, I'd say, I wanted to comment on that, just cut us off, 10% I think is adequate, of every
its salary?
Yeah.
It's going to mail you a check for like $63?
Or 63 cents. I mean, it depends. He's working in the brewing industry.
I meant $63 a year.
Right, yeah. Uh-huh. That sounds about right. All right. Yeah.
Well,
just cut us a check. We're good with that. Hey, you got to get some revenue, roll on this thing. The show, it's 7-8 years in. I think we ought to, start getting a little kickback.
I think we've got the track record to justify it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just think of everybody who was working in beer who wouldn't have been otherwise in any capacity because of the BN had just donated, whatever percentage of this. That'd be it for this network.
Yeah.
We'd be good.
They could cut us a check. I'm just saying. I'm not above taking people's money.
Maybe Thomas Franson will send us some money. In the meantime, he sent us a question. He wants a show on canning beer. I guess it's a topic email. From the small tabletop fillers to big automated canning lines. Handling of cans and print and liners and cost versus bottles and so on and so forth.
Well, Jamil, you've been looking at a lot of cans lately, haven't you?
I have. I thought his question was a little more detailed than that, but maybe not. I don't know. It hit me in the mind. I think maybe that could be one of the whole shows. Packaging beer in the commercial brewery. I thought we could do a show or a series of shows on that. For bottles and cans and kegs and all that. So John, you get on that.
Okay. Didn't you? I thought you were almost about to install a canning line, or you were thinking about it, or
we have
something?
A canning line.
You have one, okay?
Right, we're about to start canning our products in that. We've been doing it for Moylan's for a few runs,
right?
And now that we've experimented on their beer, we now feel confident enough to put our beer in cans.
Do you have any screw ups there? Or did it mostly go well?
Mostly went well. So I think the thing. And let me see that question. Why I included
it's not a question. It's like a topic suggestion.
Yeah, it was a topic suggestion, which I think is excellent. So the small tabletop to the big automated canning lines, the cans, liners, costs, and so on. Okay, yeah, I think that's a show idea that we need to cover. But what I would say is, in any kind of packaging that you're doing, you need to look at all your costs of packaging and what you can sell that package for. So, a lot of times people will poo-poo bottles, but, it depends on what you can sell that package for. If you're looking at, something where you're, wax dipping some small bottle and, you've got 3 labels on it and, it's all this expense, but the liquid inside is something like a sour beer or something where you can charge more for it per ounce. Your net per ounce profit is what you're looking for. What did it cost you to package that beer in that bottle? What did it cost you to produce that beer? What can you sell that finished package for? And a lot of times, the smaller the package, and the more the cost of the package is, especially per ounce. But with the right kind of product, you can actually charge more and get a higher per ounce profit. And that's what you need to look at no matter what the package is. So things like cans, 4 16-ounce cans is actually a higher margin sale than a 6-pack of 12-ounce cans. There's more cans there. There's more beer there, right? Or that's the same. Yeah, same. But you get more in a case. You'll have 4 6-packs, and if the retailer is selling those for $9.99, you've got $40 worth of retailer product that you need to pay your distributor, and then you need to pay yourself, and what you end up with, and then all the material costs. When you do 4 packs of 16 ounce, you have 6 in that case. So if you're selling it for $9.99, now you've got $60 worth of retail product that can be sold, and even though it's 3 gallons of beer versus 2 gallons of beer, so you're including more beer, that extra $20, a lot of that comes down to you as margin as well. So you got to look at the big picture. You got to look at one of the things they say about bottles and cans and things like a case of bottles, case of bombers. They say, well, that's 12 sales that you need to make. You need 12 customers to come and buy that case of bombers. If you're doing 6 packs, that's only 4 customers to consume a case. So it's very interesting. You only need 4 sales to happen.
Is it more common for people to people just buy one 24-ounce bottle? I frequently will buy 2 or 3.
People tend to
just buy one.
Well, it depends. A lot of it's how you need to look at it. In the how much is being sold in one transaction. But people will buy a couple. A lot of times people will buy, one of, like one Evil Twin, one Evil Cousin, one Shallow Grave. Or they'll buy, a Shallow Grave and, a Lagunitas or something. They'll buy, multiple beers, and they'll only just buy one. So if they want multi-pack, if they want multiples, then they want like a 6-pack. And they'll be happy buying one 6-pack.
Interesting. I never thought of it that way.
So
the other side of that is you do get more per bottle on the single bottle sale, but you're relying on a bigger base to buy them.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Right. So you need to. That's like one of the most profitable. But how much volume are you moving? So it's a volumes and numbers game, which I think is pretty fascinating. I think we need to do a whole show on that. Let's do this. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more of your questions right after this.
Beer tasting games that train your palate, a brewery locator, and the brand new interactive beer style guide. These are just a few of the awesome things you'll find on craftbeer.com. The style guide is a beautiful example of technology in beer. Browse beer style families or turn on the automatic beer style finder and explore beer through color, bitterness, ABV, aroma, and flavor. It's really the coolest way to explore every beer style besides having them all in front of you. Go to craftbeer.com and click on beer styles to start the guide. Plus, enjoy the rest of craftbeer.com, the Brewers Banter blogs, beer education, how to host a beer tasting, and the invaluable draft quality manual. Tons of great content that makes your beer better. Visit the new craftbeer.com right now and explore the website that brings you all the passion, camaraderie, and creativity of the craft beer community. Craftbeer.com, celebrating the best of American beer. A few things happened 30 years ago. ARPANET migrated to TCP/IP, and the Internet was born. Revenge of the Jedi was renamed Return of the Jedi and opened in theaters. Mila Kunis and Emily Blunt were born, beginning a rad fantasy in my mind. But all of that pales next to the fact that HopTech opened its doors and began blowing homebrewers right out of their mash tuns. HopTech doesn't fuck around. Real people shipping awesome shit straight to you. Their new website is fast and easy to navigate, or just call 800-379-4677 and let badass bitch Jade and the gadget guy Roberto blow their warm load of customer service all over you. So visit the site or visit the store in Dublin, California, and support those that support you. Get your brewing on at hoptech.com.
Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters, this is Jamil Zainashev, and I love a bold, hoppy beer, one that spits resin in your face and makes you cry, Uncle. There are a lot of great hoppy beers out there, but at Heretic, we want to make something as bold, dank, and resiny as possible. We use hops at every chance we get, including multiple dry hop additions. The result is Heretic Evil Cousin. This light golden, 8% Imperial IPA has an easy malt character that helps take the edge off the massive bittering, but it takes a back seat to the in-your-face hop character. We make sure this beer finishes dry so the hops can jump out and slam you in the taste buds. If you can't get enough hoppy goodness, Evil Cousin is your cup of tea. Cheers.
Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and the freshest ingredients, backed by the best customer service in the business. Do you like to mash using efficient fly sparging, but would like an easy way to heat your strike and sparge water? Enter the new Brewer's Edge electric mash water heater, a plug-in, anywhere, precisely controlled heater for strike and sparge water. Ditch the fumes and second burner and make mashing easy. Go to williamsbrewing.com today and browse their vast selection. That's williamsbrewing.com. Orders placed by 4 p.m. Pacific Time weekdays ship the same day. Brewing is easy the Williams way.
Back to your hosts, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. Putting the testicles in technical. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. We're covering your questions that you sent in to Brew Strong at BrewingNetwork.com. I tell you, a lot of the other shows, like you said, the Sour Hour and all the others, they take questions too. You email in and Sour Hour, Dr. Homebrew, the session even, send those questions in and get them answered. Indeed. Listen to all those shows too. I don't know if you've tried those shows, but good stuff. Lots of good stuff going on the Brew Network.
Just as a little teaser, the next episode of the Sour Hour will be the first Sour Hour remote broadcast. We're bringing the studio up to Russian River. And setting it up there on Wednesday, May 6th. And the guests in person will be Jean Vanois from Cantillon and Rob Todd from Allagash and Vinny himself.
6-0 de Mayo. That's my wedding anniversary.
That's right. Should we get a Mexican brewer in there just as a little hangover pick-me-up?
Yes. 6-0 de Mayo. Uh-huh.
All right, moving along with the questions. Here's another one from the same Swede, Thomas Franson. And it looks like another topic request. He wants to hear a show on shelf stability, up and downstream to package, smaller big bottles. What are the targets you are trying to hit to make your beer more flavor shelf stable? And hop varieties that fade quicker, keg-only beer?
Mm-hmm. John, again, I thought this was another great show topic.
Yeah, that would be.
That you could do a lot of research on and put a lot of effort into, and then I could come into the studio and just... sit here and ask you questions.
Okay. Well, I need to take a look at that because that can get pretty complicated.
Right.
But I do have Carl Urquhart's book on packaging. From the MBAA. I think it's MBA. Yeah. And a lot of good info in there, so I'm sure I can come up with some good recommendations.
Right. Generally, we try and minimize oxygen in the package. We try and ensure that fermentation was full, vigorous, and completed attenuation. I think, great fermentation tends to cure a lot of ills in the package and provide better stability. A period of cold conditioning enhances shelf stability as well. I think Bamforth goes with 3 days at 29 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. Suggest that.
Yeah. It help drop some of the haze and so on that can the breakdown of that stuff or oxidation reduction reactions can catalyze staling and so reduce shelf life.
And then one of the other things that we do at Heretic, we plate everything out. We make sure that we have zero colony-forming units, bacteria, wild yeast, or anything, because any of that in your package is going to shorten the life. It's going to end up, over-carbonating or becoming sour or funky. So that's an issue with that. As far as the most shelf-stable beer and the least, I would say the least shelf life you're going to get is always going to be from extremely hoppy, pale beers. That's just, those things die really quick. And everything dies once you start putting in a package. Right. In the keg, it's a little better. Kept cold, it's a little better. Darker beers with highly kiln malts in them, it acts as an antioxidant. It's the only thing I can think of. And it really does help preserve those beers, even if they're hoppy. So that's the basics of it.
Now Thomas here is wondering if you're using hop varieties that fade quicker, should that be kind of for keg-only beer? But are you saying that pale hoppy beer, it doesn't really matter the variety, it's just going to fade? Right,
well, the hops are going to fade, but there are hops that will stick around a little longer. But
what are we talking about when you say longer? A week?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a month more.
Really?
Could whether you get that trailing hop character or not. But the big thing about it is, these real pale beers with the hoppy and not a lot of other malt character to hide behind, they get this weird kind of caramelly, staling character. And so,
right.
It's the thing that people go, oh, English malt character. It's like, no, it's, stale beer. And that caramelly kind of funk, it comes on pretty quick in a real pale beer with not a lot of other malts to hide behind.
Yeah, one thing I think we should mention is that there's really no data, no published data to say which hop varieties last longer than others. So we don't have any real basis for saying, what a better hop might be, for longer, hoppiness in the package.
Yeah, some of the hops like Centennial and some of those will really stick around.
Yeah, but I mean, like, again, you don't see that published as fact. It's anecdotal evidence, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
That counts, doesn't it? I mean, if you have lots of brewers reporting the same thing over long periods of time,
I just published it on the air here, dude.
This is a source,
right? Oh, I tell you, that is just like, All right, so I'm an idiot. All you guys around here know that. Mm-hmm. Apparently, some of the people that listen to this do not know that I'm an idiot, and that's that can be problematic.
Now you know.
Right. Indeed. They believe things, they listen, they're like, oh, well, Jamil says. And
yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I threw that caveat in there, because
I'm an idiot. Well,
no.
Thank you, John.
Because people believe that we know everything that we talk about.
Right. No, I mean, generally, we can suppose, and we will throw out information that we have. But, every once in a while, can be, we could be wrong.
Right.
We're just, and we'll tell you, we don't really know, but, maybe it's this, maybe it's that.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you think if there was, data saying, okay, well, this hop variety lasts a lot longer, but in your experience, you never found that to be the case? Would you believe the data, or would you believe your experience?
I'd believe that, there's something else there.
You're missing something?
I believe both. I mean, it depends on where the data comes from. If it comes from, some
John commissioned a study.
Some fat idiot spouting stuff on a podcast versus, or if it comes from, something solid. No, but Oregon State says it's like they had this thing about, dry hopping. Oh, you get all the flavor out of the dry hops in the first 12 hours or something like that. I do and don't believe that. I mean, I realize there's a spike initially, and then there's a drop off, but then there's a second spike later on, and so my experience, shows one thing, and there's certain studies that show there's a second spike. So I'm not really, convinced one way or another on some things. I think, it's more complex. The problem is you'll say something, and this is the thing about the internet. Someone will say, well, this happened to me, and a dozen other people go, yeah, that happened to me too. And it's like, so everybody holds that as truth, the way it's been explained. And then the actual answer is a little more complex than that. And it's, and there's like the studies from German brewing 100 years ago, and then they're like, well, no, that's the way it is. The answer is somewhat more complex, and there's other factors affecting it. And so you need to take all that into account. But I think anecdotal evidence and I think, scientific study both play a role in figuring these things out.
Definitely.
All right, here's Quentin Tarantino, who writes in and says, hey, guys, follow-up question to the May 27th show.
Enjoy your movies, brother.
I asked how to scale up from 5 to 10-gallon batch. Your response was recipe times 2 and a larger pot. I was hoping
That's a fine answer, man.
Yeah, we stand by it. I was hoping you would address scaling, not specifically 5 to 10. If I were to follow that logic, the ratio of hops to wort from 5 gallons would be no different if brewing a barrel. Is this correct?
Right.
I am under... That is correct?
Well...
Finish
the question.
Okay, all right. I'm under the impression that the higher volume of wort, the lower ratio of hops required due to increased hops utilization percentage. Proceed if desired. I have heard of homebrewers gone pro that have experienced growing pains due to this very thing. That perfectly balanced 5-gallon homebrew IPA, when attempted on, say, a 30-barrel system, is now peeling the enamel off your teeth. Is there any part of the process affected by, say, salts, specialty grains, hops, etc.? Thanks, and be gentle.
Right. So it depends on how crappy your homebrew setup was, because the only reason, because you're if you scale everything up directly, the amount of hop material going into the amount of liquid is exactly the same. The ratio is identical, so that's not changing. The ratio of the kettle, that and the vigor of the boil. If you're getting a really crappy boil, you're not getting much movement of your liquid in your boil kettle as a small brewer. I think that could be an issue, right?
Right.
But generally, everybody's aware of the boil and how it needs to boil. I don't think you're getting a huge difference between that and on a commercial scale. Because, again, the thought was, well, there's more liquid. It's like, well, the ratio of liquid to hop, if you're using the same hops in both, it's a ratio. No. I don't necessarily believe that that's the cause. I think one of the causes that seems to be happening is, if as a home brewer using an immersion coil, when you turn that thing on, you very quickly stop isomerizing the alpha acids. You very quickly shut everything down as far as developing more bittering. On the pro brewer scale, a lot of breweries, their knockout takes an hour. So you got an hour hot that you continue to isomerize these alpha acids. You continue to develop the bittering. And so I think that tends to play a role in it. And it's not the fact that, it's a larger size, because all that's the same. I mean, it could be some equipment issues, but that's the difference. I think it's the knockout. What do you say, John?
I agree with that, because again, it's one of these situations where the answer is more complex than what it seems on the surface. Mm-hmm. Generally, scaling up recipes, it's a linear scale as far as most ingredients, but you've got to take into account that the specialty malts don't necessarily scale linearly. And you've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. So mainly it's a base malt increase if you're going from say 5 to 10 to 15 gallons. Add more base malt to bring up the gravity, add a little bit more specialty malt to bring up the flavor, but to keep, it's not necessarily a 1-to-1 ratio or scale.
We ran into a weird issue just recently I've been discussing was we tried scaling up a recipe, and when they scaled it, they doubled it in order to get the same gravity as the previous recipe. And they got close to the gravity, but it was much paler in color, was lacking all the specialty malt flavors. And I'm like, well, if you're going from, let's say, 10 gallons to, 100 gallons, and that 100-gallon system has a much higher efficiency than the 10-gallon system, you still need to scale your specialty grains up 10 times or close to that. Maybe a little less. But maybe you don't scale your base malt up quite that much. That's the issue there. We're finding that we need to scale the specialty grains up because the high efficiency is really, taking advantage of all that base malt. And so you need to use less base malt, and your percentage of specialty malts is rising.
Yeah. Hey, what have you found, Jamil, in terms of scaling up your hop quantities? I was converting a recipe from commercial size down to homebrew size last week, and looking at his hop quantities and times, I looked at that and realized that I couldn't just scale it by volume. It made more sense to go to standard recipe software and just say, I want 50 IBUs out of these hops at these times. How much do I use at each time? To get a more reasonable approximation of how much what quantity of hops to get that number of IBUs.
I'd be careful because the calculations for IBUs are worthless.
It's strictly a simple model. But.
Yeah, I mean it's worthwhile in your own brewery doing your own thing, so you have an idea of whether you're higher or lower than what you've gotten before. But brewery to brewery, it has no bearing. So changing the volumes and the alpha acids. I generally wouldn't if I was looking to replicate something, just because the calculations are always off.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. What did you find?
Well, I found that I was off by, my estimate versus just scaling would have been off by a factor of 3. So I'm, going from a 10-barrel batch to a 5-gallon batch. I just kind of threw those hop calculations off. So
I would always just scale the hops directly on the grains. That's a little trickier to scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I would kind of maintain generally the specialty malts and fiddle around with the base malts depending on efficiency differences.
Yeah.
So.
But in general, when scaling, percentages are your friend.
Yes, I would agree with that statement.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So were we gentle enough that time? Did we fill out that? I think it was a good question. I think. But I think I stand by our earlier answer on the earlier question. Use math times 2, and there you go. All right. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more of your questions right after this.
And now, Northern Brewer presents What If Homebrewers Ruled the World?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll follow me, I will lead you into the gallery area. Now, the first piece up for sale today is a Jamil Chef original, a bottle of 1997 vintage Evil Twin.
I say.
A bidding for this one-of-a-kind piece will start at £7,000. And if you'll continue to follow me, ladies and gentlemen, I can show you a rather abstract piece from Bay Area brewer Justin Crossley. It's a German Doppelbock entitled Justin's Giant Bock. The brewer's notes here indicate that this beer had excellent mouthfeel.
That's just a crazy dream. Or is it? With Northern Brewer, a thirsty nation can craft its own ale and lager for the greater good of mankind. Northern Brewer, the home of superior customer service. selection of homebrewing goods for the future.
Your support of the Brewing Network means everything to us. We couldn't produce shows without you. And we love giving you something extra for that support, like Brew Your Own magazine. You already know it's a great brewing magazine full of recipes, equipment how-tos, discussions of beer styles, and brewing techniques. Whether you're new to brewing and just starting out or you're an old pro, you'll always learn something from the articles in Brew Your Own. Plus, they're amazing special issues like plans for building a Brutus 10 system, 250 classic clone recipes, and the Homebrewer's Answer Book. Brew Your Own magazine and BYO.com are awesome resources for any brewer, whether for yourself or as a gift. When you subscribe or resubscribe from the Brewing Network homepage, you directly support programs like this. Get a great magazine and support the Brewing Network. Subscribe to Brew Your Own right from the BrewingNetwork.com.
BN Army, I'm here to talk seriously for a second. You all are partially responsible for something explosive, and it's time you answer for it.
Moonlight Meadery is exploding.
Yeah, exploding across the country. Wait, they just landed in Australia with insane quality meads.
With nearly 70 different varieties of mead on the market, Moonlight Meadery has blown up the mead category and completely reinvented it.
Seriously?
What?
Seriously?
What?
You're paying money for that watered-down mead when you could have a Moonlight mead?
Moonlight meads explode with quality and flavor.
They're a party in a bottle.
Did someone say party?
If you want mead and want the best, you want meads from Moonlight Meadery and will accept nothing less.
And now get 15% off by going to moonlightmeadery.com/BNArmy and use coupon code BNArmy at checkout.
Hey, sign me up for that party.
Like the Lance Armstrong of the beer world. Except for that nut thing. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. Wrapping up another fine episode of Brew Strong.
Yep.
Answering your questions. How many questions we got left?
A couple more.
All right.
And then I heard some big news that there's Jamil
Jay-Z's Medical Corner coming up.
All right, so let's get through these quickly then. Here's James from Australia who says he loved Can You Brew It? Back in that incarnation of the show, and he always loved the pro interviews, he says. One thing struck me was that most of them work in Play-Doh, some in bricks, and only a small amount in gravity. Mm-hmm. Most of the brewers that came from a homebrew background switched using Play-Doh. Can you please explain the relative merits of each system and perhaps why homebrewers have gravitated, pun not intended, toward gravity, but pros have gone toward Play-Doh or bricks?
Yeah, I think the pros are just stuck in the old world, and I mean, specific gravity does make the most sense if you ask me. I just do not see the reasoning behind bricks or Play-Doh. And even at our brewery, and Chris was like, no. Pro brewers work in, and it's this whole thing about, I'm a pro brewer. I'm going to work in, some arcane, worthless system. Because even Play-Doh and bricks don't agree, and they're not designed for wort sugars.
They're designed for pure sucrose.
Right. So it's just kind of silly to stick with that. But, it's just like this, club thing where everyone sticks to it. I think specific gravity's fine. I think it offers a bit more precision in a way. I don't know. They're both fine. They're all fine.
Yeah.
It's just what
Play-Doh is nice in that you don't have to worry about temperature as much when you're taking like a hydrometer sample or a gravity sample, and do a temperature correction. You can get a kind of a pseudo gravity reading from a refractometer a little more quickly than you can a hydrometer.
There are specific gravity refractometers too.
Yeah. The other thing, I mean, that makes Play-Doh and bricks refractometers a little archaic is the fact that you actually have to use a specific gravity reading from a hydrometer if you're going to calculate total extract. It's in the equation. You've got to put in that gravity reading to make a real conversion. So some of the pro brewers and some maltsters prefer Plato and Degrees Plato because it represents pound of extract, and they feel that is an easier way to calculate a grain bill, because they know how many pounds of extract they need.
Right.
Homebrew world, we do the same thing, but instead of thinking about it in pounds of extract, we're saying, okay, I want a gravity of 1060, and at so many points per pound per gallon, I can make that calculation.
Well, I think again, in today's world, back when you had to count, pounds per gallon,
in barrels of water
on your toes. I could see that today with the easy access to calculators and things. I think we could all switch to a much more modern system. And there are refractometers now that are designed, digital ones that are designed to around maltose as the primary sugar, which a lot more precise. So there you go.
All right. Really, the biggest thing is just talking in Plato. That's what pro brewers do.
Yes.
And talking in gravity. That's what home brewers do.
Right.
So if you start a pro brewery and you won't want to sound like a home brewer, talk in Plato.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. That'll change over time. But yeah, people want to sound cool. So.
Here's Ross from the Midwest. Howdy, guys. If it hasn't already been discussed, I would love to learn more about how commercial breweries use pilot breweries, if at all. So here's a couple of questions he's got. How do commercial breweries use these? And how does recipe development go? How do you test out new ingredients? If you don't use one, why not? So does Heretic use one?
No.
Why not?
Seems like a lot of work. I mean, it does. You could brew 5 gallons of beer, or you could brew 1,000 gallons of beer. Same amount of effort. Which one are you going to do?
Well, what about when you want to test out a new recipe?
I test it out in my head.
Okay, well, but do you think that's, if not unique, a very tiny percentage of brewers just know beer as... You're in the top 5 beer knowledge people in the world, so you can do that, but Joe homebrewers shouldn't.
I think probably at least... I'd be shocked if at least half, probably more like 80% of brewers just go ahead and do it full-size batch. I don't see that many doing pilot batches. I mean, if you're doing something like you're, Stone, and you're going to do a, couple of thousand barrels of something, or 300, or 5,000 barrels of something, maybe you go ahead and you knock out a 5-barrel something, or you have the brew pub do a 10-barrel, and then you go off of that. But
right.
For us, it's 35 barrels ish, and it's like, well, it'll be beer, it'll be fine. We'll just sell it in the tap room.
Yeah, a lot of brewers were talking to Blickman at CBC about his pilot systems, 1-barrel, 2-barrel, 3-barrel pilot systems that they build. So, I mean, a lot of brewers do use pilot systems, and it just, as Jamil says, it depends on how you conceptualize recipes and kind of the background purpose for what you're doing that pilot for. If it's, scaling up to a very large batch, it makes sense to do a smaller pilot batch first.
I think, the value, and I'd like to have a little system just for variety in the tap room. So I certainly wouldn't mind that. And you could call that a pilot system, but, it's just smaller run stuff just to keep the variety going. But, I wouldn't necessarily anything I was sending out. I don't know that I would pilot batch it.
So very quickly, for Ross, because he sounds like he maybe wants to do one, what system would you recommend?
Like John said, the Blickman, they've got that 1-barrel or 2-barrel, and I think they're working on like a 3-barrel.
Right.
I would size it so that, it was worth the effort. If you do 5 gallons, the problem is it's not enough beer to do anything with. I would at least make it big enough so that the labor that went into it, which is the same as brewing a full-size batch, could make some money at the tap room. And so the tap room,
that's a good point.
You sell it all in the tap room, and it's like, okay, well, we did okay on that. It wasn't a waste of time and money. So I'd make sure of that. So I'd size it up to that if possible.
All right, you want to do Medical Corner before we get out of here?
It's Jay-Z's Medical Corner.
All right, here we go.
I know you've all been waiting.
Stand aside, nurse.
It's Jay-Z's Medical Corner.
Oh, yeah. No. I told you before about going to the doctor. Get the funky skin on my face, and they're like, oh, it's sun damage. And then they told me that I get a light colored spot on my dick because I rubbed the color out of it.
What?
Right.
When you were 16?
No. They were like, oh yeah, it must be from rubbing. And I'm like, no.
Impossible.
I'd have to be rubbing like a monkey in a zoo in order to rub the color off my dick. Just not happening.
It would have happened in your teenage years. Really?
yeah, it would have happened before I was married. And So I happened to go to a dermatologist to get a little, dangling lump of something off of my body. I'm like, my face, and they looked at it, and they're like, you got this anywhere else in your body? I'm like, well,
Now that you mention it.
And they're like, well, it's vitiligo, which is the Michael Jackson disease. Not Parkinson's. Not that Michael Jackson. The other Michael Jackson. The one with the one glove.
Whoa.
Vitiligo. It's that skin thing where, you lose color in your skin. And so so I've got this thing going on. Now, I'm pretty sure I got it from inappropriately touching small children. But,
it's not proven.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure that's where I got it. But, I'm not sure how Michael Jackson got it because that wouldn't make sense there. But I'm pretty sure, that's where it comes from. So
are you going to make an appointment with the plastic surgeon just to make everything look like that? Because otherwise you're going to end up splotchy. That's
no,
I'm
already splotchy. I'm going to end up looking like Elizabeth Taylor. No, I talked to them and they said, look, there's this ointment you put on. It's like $600 ointment. You put it on the areas and then it like turns off some parts of and allows your color to develop again. And takes about 3 months, they said. It gives you cancer. That's the other thing. Skin cancer, lymphatic system cancer. But, you look good. Disease. You look good. That's the thing. That's the important thing. And, it was interesting. When they found out I worked in a brewery, they're like, well, do you get exposed to these, to harsh chemicals or anything like that? I'm like, well,
yeah.
This started to happen back when, some steam from the keg washer, some caustic steam. I'm like, could be exposures to that. And they're like, yeah, that's the sort of thing that triggers it.
No kidding.
And they don't know really what causes it. But, again, it's
do you have to have a genetic predisposition to it and then it's triggered? Or any person can just get triggered by the steam?
Or touching small children inappropriately.
Sure.
Yes.
Not proven.
They're not really sure, but it is like a immune system thing, and so in response to this, it's like your body stops producing the melanoid and the color, or melanin or whatever it is,
right?
Melanin in your skin. So I'm not normally as white as I look. I'm slightly darker. I am not. Laser paper white. I'm, more of an ivory.
It's an off-white.
An off-white,
right.
Yes.
Elephant tusk, I think, is the paint color.
Elephant tusk, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, I would be elephant tusk.
The ivory worm.
With a little bit of biscuit mixed in, I think. Biscuity. I am a little biscuity, I think.
Is this what I have to look forward to in 20 years? Yes. Your skin starts falling off and turning colors?
Yeah, I have. We can do a whole series on Jay-Z's Medical Corner. I got a couple other interesting things happening, too. So it's I'll start bringing this. I think you moved me up in the death pool.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'll make an adjustment to the spreadsheet.
Right. I think
odds have changed as of today. The line has gone up.
Oh yeah, I'm there. I'm starting to become 1-to-1 odds.
Oh,
I'm going.
Bevo wants her microphone.
She wants to talk about the color rub down on my dick.
Oh,
no.
Was your penis in the steam?
Oh, good question.
There's a little bit of love in every batch of Heretic.
Egg washer, eh?
Secret ingredient.
Gross.
No. Apparently, it can trigger it in your body, and it happens around. So if you Google vitiligo and look at the images, you'll see like pictures of penises, and you'll like a guy spreading his ass cheeks, and there's like a halo around his sphincter, and
the second you said that, Scott jumped to his keypad.
Yeah, I mean, it tends to be around like people's eyes and around their mouths and things like that.
Oh, I instantly regret Google imaging this.
Right. I mean, there's a bunch of but that's what it is.
There are some things you can't unsee.
I can't stop looking.
No, but so it wasn't me rubbing excessively, Doctor. It's a very, very debilitating disease.
Oh, my God. It sure looks like it.
Yeah.
Jesus. Well, that's all really great. It's funny. Jamil's got a shirt on that says, I brew beer in big bold letters, and then parentheses below it says, need another reason to save me from the zombie apocalypse. But has it occurred to you, Jay-Z, that perhaps you are the zombie apocalypse?
I could be.
Your skin's falling off your bones.
I could be rotten here in no time and have a taste for brains. So there you go.
Well, that's really
Go
great.
Figure. Right.
This doesn't do much for your image as the poster child of craft brewing, though.
Yeah, sure. I think, the interesting thing is it gives me a moral right to make fun of anybody with this similar disease.
Sure.
True, yeah.
You can't. I thought about it. And you really can't make fun of anybody that has the disease unless you have it or you have somebody close that has it. So it's like why I can make fun of severe mental retardation because Scott is my friend. Or acquaintance, one or the other. That's why I can make fun of it. So.
It's a good excuse to hold a telephone, though.
Right. Well, and if you feel charitable, I would suggest going to our fine sponsor, Blickman Engineering, blickmanengineering.com. Check out all their goodies there. If you're looking for a pilot system or a nano system, check it out. They got what you need. Good people there. Check out the other shows on the Brewing Network, and check out the store on the Brewing Network, brewingnetwork.com/store. There's all sorts of goodies in there, books and hats and glassware and hoodies and growlers and all sorts of special stuff that when you buy that stuff, it goes to the bottom line of the Brewing Network and helps keep programming like this on the air. That is something you want to do, right? Everybody nods.
Yes.
This is radio. You can all say yes. You don't have to nod.
I don't want to be so self-serving.
There you go. Well,
but I want you to know I'm acknowledging what you're saying.
Boy, thank you. Mm-hmm. It makes me feel good.
That's what acquaintances are for.
In my medically challenged state, I think it's very important that I get the kindness of strangers and acquaintances to make me feel
medically challenged. That's so PC. It doesn't sell the picture of what's really happening to you here.
I'm rotting off the flesh falling off the bones. All right, until then, everybody, brew strong.
Brew strong.